Good afternoon, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. Distinguished guests, faculty, staff, students, members of our community. My name is Michael Trick, and as Dean, it is my distinct pleasure to welcome you to a very special edition of the Carnegie Mellon University in Qatar Dean's Lecture Series. The purpose of this series has always been to create a bridge between the learning happening within our walls and real-world challenges and opportunities that await our graduates. We invite leaders who are shaping the future to share their wisdom, and doing so, help our students envision the role that they themselves will play in that future. Today's event is exactly in that tradition. Our guest today is a pivotal figure in the global energy landscape. His Excellency Saad Sherida Al-Kaabi, the Minister of State for Energy Affairs for the State of Qatar, and the President and CEO of QatarEnergy. His Excellency's career is a remarkable story of vision and leadership. He joined what was then Qatar Petroleum in 1986, while he was an engineering student at Penn State University, about 2 hours away from Carnegie Mellon. Over the past 40 years, he has steadily risen through the ranks. His leadership was instrumental in the monumental development of North Field, a project that has not only secured Qatar's economic future, but also reshaped the global energy market. Since becoming President and CEO in 2014 and Minister of State for Energy Affairs in 2018, he has guided QatarEnergy's transformation into the integrated global leader it is today. So, as you can tell, today is not a formal lecture. His Excellency has graciously agreed to join me in a conversation. When we were planning this event, he was very clear that his primary goal was to engage directly with our students. So there will be the opportunity for our students to ask questions. He wanted this to be a forum for genuine dialogue, an opportunity to discuss the future of energy, technology, and sustainability with people who will lead the fields tomorrow. So we're going to begin the conversation here on stage. And we will certainly make a lot of time for your questions. So before we begin, please join me in providing a warm Carnegie Mellon welcome to His Excellency Saad Sherida Al-Kaabi.
Thank you.
So let's begin with a bit of history. The energy sector is a big driver, of course, here in Qatar, but it wasn't always that way. You've been in this area a long time. How have you seen the energy sector grow, and what are the big changes you've seen?
First, Professor, I'd like to thank you and everybody in the audience here, the staff and the faculty and students for inviting me to come here, yourself, and then really for everybody that's attending here, whether it's from the university or outside the university. It's a pleasure to be here. I was here recently in May, June for the graduation of my son. So it's great to be here in the same hall again. Of course, I joined as a student studying petroleum engineering in Penn State, as you mentioned, I've been to Pittsburgh several times, which is just a short drive away from where I went to university from 86 to 91, and then joined the energy sector in 91 as a petroleum and natural gas engineer. Working in drilling, operation, production, and all throughout QatarEnergy. When I started, we had a very modest, 300,000 barrels of oil. We had one producing gas field. The North Field was just one North Field Alpha, which was really producing for steel, a fertilizer plant, and electricity for the state. And that was about it. And then it was really the visionary leadership of His Highness the Father Amir to put together a plan for really utilizing the gas. And then my predecessors and all the people that worked on this in QatarEnergy to make sure that we go into the next phase, which was getting Qatar from actually not exporting gas at all to having the first LNG project, which was Qatar Gas at the time, and then increasing it and reaching 77 million tons by 2008-9. When I came in later on in 2014 as the CEO and president of QatarEnergy, with my team at the time, we put a new plan together to really see what potential we have to drive this even further to complement what was done before us. And at the time, the production was 77 million tons per annum. We put a plan to reach 142 million tons per annum of LNG export, and 160 if you count our investment in the US. So we went to more than 100%, or we are going to be starting next year the first of that expansion phase, the first train of that expansion phase. So we'll go from 77 to around 160 million tons per annum. In fertilizer, we are the second largest fertilizer producer in the world after Russia. We have put a plan in place to go from 6 million tons, which is number 2 in the world, to be 12 million tons, which is going to be feeding the world. It's really food security, because fertilizer is needed for all the agricultural products. And we have also increased our presence in the upstream sector. We're one of the largest, if not the largest, exploration block holder outside the country, and that is to increase our footprint outside the country, especially in oil, which is reaching our plateau here in Qatar. So we have gone outside. So we're producing in a project in Iraq today about 120,000 barrels a day. It will reach 200,000 in a few years. We're producing 180 to 200,000 barrels in Brazil. It will reach 400,000 by 2030. We are going to be developing, a field in Namibia, and so on. So we have really a lot of plans that completely change the face of QatarEnergy. It's probably double the company that it was just a few years ago.
Tremendous growth, really quite amazing. So the energy sector doesn't exist in a bubble. Qatar itself has a deep commitment to national capacity building and sustainable development. So how does my operation, how does the education sector and the energy sector, what roles do you see in building kind of long-term resilience in Qatar?
Education is everything in life. If you have educated people that can deliver on whatever discipline that you're looking to deliver on, people who are trained and developed and have a good education are the people that can deliver that product or knowledge or whatever the entity that you're working for. Of course, in our industry, it is multiple, because we need technicians and operators that are really a very highly skilled job that needs certain competencies that we train them for. You need people that are, very capable engineers that have an engineering degree that could help us in that front. We need very good economists and commercial people and accountant for that part of the commercial part of the business. We need very good marketers that have a mix of all, and we need also, everybody in between all these disciplines and linking all that. So having educated people that are very sound technically, and then over and above that, training them with a very good program that develops their skills, because, as the university will give you the basis to be a problem solver and to have knowledge in certain discipline. But at the end, when you go to practice, you need to build on that. If you don't have that basis and that solid basis and competencies, you won't be able to excel in your job. So I think getting a very good education and being capable gives you a springboard for you to really succeed in any discipline that you work in, whether it's oil and gas or others. we talk about oil and gas, but we're also a company that does a lot of economics. We do borrowing. We do a lot of things. We do sustainable stuff. We do so we're a company that works, in many countries now, and we need educated people. And the only way to keep building competencies is to have succession planning and keep bringing in good people that are well educated and train them and develop them to grow. So that is how I became the CEO, from being a very, I worked hard on being a good reservoir engineer, a petroleum engineer, in college. And then after that, it's really doing the labor, if you will, on drilling rigs, operation, production, working week on, week off for 2 years in the offshore, and then working onshore in Dukhan oil field and different places, and working in the US for 2 years on a project, and then coming back and then coming up the ladder, if you will, based on your competency and capability.
Did you
So
say
education is fundamental.
Did you say you worked offshore
Yes.
along the way?
Yes.
Do most executives in your company do that?
Yeah, it depends on the discipline that you come from. I come from what we call the core business, if you will, of the business, which is petroleum engineering, because I worked on a drilling rig onshore in Dukhan for a year and a half, drilling production, and then I moved offshore on a drilling rig, week on, week off for a year and a half, and then I worked on Halul Island for 6 months, which is our production offshore export facility, week on, week off. And then I had a project in the US for 2 years. We were doing a characterization study of the North Field with Mobil Oil before the merger of ExxonMobil. So I moved to Dallas for 2 years. I worked there for 2 years, came back, became a reservoir engineer, senior reservoir, head of reservoir, manager of North Field, manager of gas development, director of oil and gas, and then the CEO. So I worked hard to get where I am.
That's amazing. That is amazing, and I think I think more CEOs should have that really broad experience within the company. I think that makes you a much stronger CEO for having that experience and understanding that. Okay, I'm going to ask one more question, but then I'm going to open it up. Why don't we begin just by having any student questions? And so just to let you know how this is going to go after this question, there are 2 microphones. There's a microphone there and a microphone there. And so if we have any student questions, we can, if you want to start lining up behind the microphones. And just for everybody who will be asking a question, I do want to remind you that if you have used ChatGPT to create your question for you, I hope you included the instructions. The question should be short and not include a speech. So we'll be opening it up for questions in just a moment. But one more question now.
But ChatGPT it really helps. So.
Kira, did we use that for my questions, or no? We did these just on our own. Okay.
But no cheating, though. For exams here, it's okay.
That is a big issue within this building. So, look, there are always environmental concerns about energy, and because of that, that's been a great motivator for global energy transition. Can you tell us about, where energy is going, Qatar's role in transition, and, just aspects of how the environment plays into this?
Yeah. I think there's a lot of discussion about the environment, and there is the cancel culture of saying we don't need oil and gas anymore, and you have all this discussion that's been going on. And if you look at, the US, your country, as an example, you go from saying zero oil and gas to drill, baby, drill, President Trump says. So I think these swings in the discussion, if you look at what we've done in Qatar, we've said all along that we have a strategy. If you notice, we're the only country in the region that did not announce net zero. And it's very intentional. We believe that most of the countries that say we're going to reach net zero, and you actually dig down to see what they're talking about, they're all, or the majority, unless you're Norway that have hydro ample supply of water and hydro where you can get, easy power. The majority are countries that will say, we are going to reach, by 2040, let's say 70% of our CO2 target. And then to actually get over, the rest of the 25-30% that's remaining, technology improvement and what will happen in the future will determine how fast we can do that. That doesn't mean that you can announce that I will. It is I will strive to, I will try, I will do my best, but not I will. So that's why we see that we would be lying as Qatar if we say that we can achieve net zero, okay, when we are trying to develop the biggest expansion in the history of the LNG sector, okay? But what we can do is to do it in the most responsible way, in the sense of saying, and you have to keep in mind that when you produce more LNG, gas is the best fossil fuel from an environmental point or from an emissions point of view known to mankind today. So if you use the gas that's being produced in Qatar to do away with some of the coal around the world, you're reducing CO2 immediately by half. Mm-hmm. So a power plant using coal, if you switch it to gas, you reduce your emission by half. And a lot of countries are doing that. So we're helping a lot of countries to do it. The technology that we use is the best from an emissions point of view. It's not only CO2, but all the other inerts that come out. We have built the largest fleet in the world with the largest order in the world, 128 ships worth $35 billion that are all run by LNG. Okay, so that we're not using heavy fuel oil, which means it is the least environmentally intrusive, if you will, form of transportation that you can build. A lot of people talk about CO2 sequestration and how can we get rid of CO2. We've been actually injecting CO2 in Qatar since 2016. So we're injecting 2.5 million tons of CO2 annually. The plan was put in place when I was head of upstream in 2008. And this is before anybody knew what CO2 sequestration meant. Okay, so now the plan is with the new expansion that we have, we're going to reach somewhere between 11 to 13 million tons of CO2 sequestration. So we are actually sequestering CO2 that we're producing, or the majority of what we're producing. So we're doing it in the most responsible way that you can. And in addition to that, we're doing a lot on the renewable side.
Okay, great. Okay, let's open it up to the question. We've got a question on the left here.
Assalamu alaikum, Your Excellency. I promise you, this is not ChatGPT. I just wrote it in my phone to keep it in memory. So, Your Excellency,
I'm okay if it's from ChatGPT if you like the question.
I'm just being honest.
Because it's you asking.
I'm just being honest.
Okay.
So, Your Excellency, after Qatar's withdrawal from OPEC, what key developments or strategic advancements have we seen or emerged for the country?
The reason we left OPEC was because we don't see ourselves as a large oil producer, and we're constrained by what the OPEC does from a production point of view and following what the organization wants to do, and not being part of it. The only advantage is we do what we like.
So being independent in this case is much better for QatarEnergy and Qatar as a whole.
Yeah, it's not a big deal either way, but I think being out of that organization is a better solution or a better outcome for us.
Perfect. Thank you very much.
Next question.
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for coming and giving us this
welcome.
Interesting speech. My question for you is, what's your opinion on electric vehicles and their sustainability compared to combustion engine vehicles? As I read an article a while back that you need to drive an electric vehicle for a certain amount of mileage in order for their emissions with the combustion engine to level.
Okay, you're asking about the emission difference, or what's my opinion about EVs in general?
The sustainability part.
Okay.
And your opinion
Yeah, for me, I mean, EV cars are growing, and it's a good thing to have. We have no issue with having more EV cars, and I think it's a personal preference. The mileage issue is something that was a big issue in the beginning of EV cars. I think they're getting more and more advanced, where you can get more mileage on EV. And I have no issue at all with having more EVs. At the end, you need electricity to charge them, which is gas.
Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Another question on this slide.
Thank you, Your Excellency, for the amazing speech.
Most welcome.
So I just want to ask, oil is trading US dollar, and like if, let's say, the Federal Reserve, they lower the interest rate in October or December or both, how might that impact QatarEnergy?
Okay.
And yeah.
Yeah. Okay. The interest rate has nothing to do with our income is going to be in dollars. So the only way that the interest rate would impact is if we are trying to borrow money, which we do borrow every now and then. So when you borrow, if the interest rate comes down, it's going to be good for us. So that's the only impact. Regarding the Qatar overall and so on, we're pegged to the US dollar, so it's indifferent. If it was not pegged to the dollar, then the dollar appreciation or depreciation based on the interest rate could be harmful to us on an exchange rate basis. But it doesn't affect us.
Okay.
So no effect really.
Okay, thank you, Minister.
Except borrowing. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, I'm going to have another question now, but I'll now open it up. Oh, I'm terribly sorry. I didn't see you over there.
So I've heard you talked about that you're the only company that haven't announced net zero. Do you think this differentiates you with competitors around the region?
No, we're the only. We're not only the only company. I'm saying we're the only. We didn't announce net zero, but we're the only country in the region that did not say we're going to be net zero, يعني كقطر. And the reason is because we think we would be lying if we actually say we will reach net zero by 2050. And we're always, honest about what we can and cannot do.
Thank you.
Okay, now I'm going to ask a question, but I will open up the question and answer to anybody in the audience. So just a reminder, you need to go over to the microphone and you need to ask a question. So on that note, we've laughed a little bit about the role of AI in this conversation, but tell me a bit about how you see AI affecting the energy sector, and specifically sustainability, other aspects like that. And just a little bit of a plug, within the last couple of weeks, we have announced our new Bachelor of Science in Artificial Intelligence. And I'm sure there are some students here today who are planning to be graduating in that area.
Yeah, AI is of course, is a new thing people are talking about, but AI in some sense has always been there, from a programming point of view, from predictive maintenance, from a lot of things that we do. So we've been dabbling, if you will, with AI, but now it's going to overdrive, where you have it at a much bigger competency, capability, and crunching power, if you will, and so on. So we have made some pilots with different companies where we look at how AI can be introduced, especially predictive maintenance and efficiency and so on. And it's in its infancy, if you will, to how we are using it. But we have a department that's actually looking at that and looking at use cases that we are doing. So we're doing a lot of pilot projects and use cases in our different companies in the sector to see where we can. So there have been cases where we have developed things, using AI, where it's been very successful, and things that have failed. But it will definitely increase with time, because like us, most of the companies around the world, that have LNG plants or a petrochemical plant or a refinery are doing the same thing, and ultimately companies will come up with their own models or patent on a certain use case and so on, and then it would be utilized. So anything that would make it more efficient, make you break down less, if you will, from a predictive maintenance, or make it cheaper to develop something, is going to be something that we would use.
Good. Well, I hope we can provide you with some students who can help you in that area.
I'm sure you will.
You have a question on the right?
Thank you, Dean Trick, for hosting this talk. Thank you, Your Excellency, for coming and for giving us this important talk. By 2030, the aim is to increase the oil production in general.
In Qatar?
In Qatar.
Yeah.
If, say, for instance, an oil price drops, or, for instance, some event happens, how will we approach this later on? How will we tackle this issue so that it doesn't affect QatarEnergy's investments?
Okay. Maybe I will rephrase your question. So if oil prices collapse, how do you deal with it as QatarEnergy to make sure you're sustainable as a profitability or whatever? I think the things that you can control is we're blessed with a lot of gas, so we need to make sure that when we develop it or develop any project, that it is at the least cost possible. Okay, so if your capital cost is as low as possible, and then the second lever that you have is your operating cost. You need to make sure that you have an operating cost that's very manageable, and you have to make sure it's at a low level. And then what we do in all our companies managed by QatarEnergy is we actually benchmark our production and operating cost in all our companies, whether it's fertilizer, petrochemical, upstream business, LNG, QatarEnergy itself. We benchmark ourselves with all the companies around the world. And there are companies that do benchmarking between the same industry. And we target to be in first quartile, as the first quartile meaning the top quarter of companies in the world from a cost perspective. If a collapse happens, what will happen is people will start losing money. So the people that are in the fourth quartile, which are at a much higher cost, will start shutting down because they will be losing money. So if you're always in the first quartile, the volume that is being bought by or that will come offline because they're not profitable anymore will creep at these high cost producers, and then they will come out of the market, and supply demand will balance the market out again. So you'll always be able to withstand the big hits in the market because you'll be the last to go out from a cost perspective. And what you need to do is keep managing that. When I took over the energy sector in Qatar, we were 47,000 people. You know the number today? 32,000. That's managing cost. Okay, thank you.
If I can just follow up on that. One of the ways companies often handle the ups and downs is by hedging. And so doing a financial investment in a way that if oil prices go down, then you offset it. But that isn't part of your answer.
No. You see, if you want to hedge, you can hedge for a certain period. So you can say, I want to hedge for a year or a 6 month. And there is a price for hedging. So you might pay let's say for argument's sake, $1 for a hedge of 1 year. Okay, so you're fixing your price at that 1 year. If you want to hedge for 2 years, it might be $3. Okay, and most people will not be able to give you a quote for a hedge for more than that, because if you're hedging, one person is losing versus another. It's like a bet. Who's betting this is going to go up or down? So hedging is used for us, but we have a trading division where we trade LNG. 50% is not our LNG. We've created a trading organization in QatarEnergy where we trade LNG, and 50% is outside LNG, not our own. Mm-hmm. You may have seen recently we bought LNG from Australia. So Qatar buying LNG from Australia. Why would you buy LNG from Australia? We bought it because our trading division is actually buying from different marketplaces, and then it's trading all over the place, because we will be having, after all the ships arrive, the new ships, we'll have about 180 ships with LNG producing production in Qatar. Some we bought from Australia. We have some that we bought from the US, and we have our own production in the US. And we have terminals all over the place. So actually, you're doing the arbitrage between that. In hedging, because it's covered hedges, where I buy a volume and so on, we do hedge, okay? Because it's covered volume for trading. But you don't really hedge the oil price. The best thing that we know to take the risk for is oil price risk. So all oil and gas companies accept oil price risk, and that's why we don't hedge. And it's very expensive to hedge if you're looking at our total portfolio to be hedged.
Mm-hmm. Got it. Thank you. Okay, we'll have a question right in the middle.
Okay. Assalamu alaikum, Your Excellency. Thank you very much for this enlightening, basically, meeting. My question was about the recent European position when it comes to this duty of care and the taxation of, I think, probably 5% or so, and your statement that this is not going to be possible, and even Qatar would look for other kind of markets, basically, to sell it as LNG. My question is, what is your strategic foresight with this kind of position from Europe? It seems it is still at a stagnation, basically. No position has changed at Brussels, and definitely from your side. Your comments on this. Thank you very much.
Okay, maybe to explain to the students maybe here and people that don't know anything about this. I mentioned this in I think December or somewhere in that, at that time. I think it was December anyway, in the Doha Forum. So basically it's called CSDDD. Okay, so it's Corporate Sustainability Due Diligence Directive. That was a directive that was put in place in May of last year, where they put it into motion, if you will. And what that does, it says you have to be responsible for three things. One is all your supply chain for any project that you're building. You make sure that the labor rights are preserved, and you are actually auditing these labor rights, which means no child labor, their accommodate, you take care of them, which is what we have in Qatar, and we've put very strict laws and so on, and it's almost a model if you go to Ras Laffan to what we have. And this is by international auditors. So that's first of all. Second is you're responsible for scope 3 emissions, not only scope 1, 2, and 3. For those of you that don't understand what the scopes are basically, if we produce oil and gas, we emit CO2, that's scope 1. If today the power that's powering this building, you get electricity, the electricity produced by the power producer is scope 2. So we're using the power, but the plant is somebody else, CO2. And scope 3 is when we sell you gasoline and you burn it in your car, or a jet fuel for Qatar Airways. So that's scope 3. So you're responsible for all scopes. The third element is you have to announce that you can reach net zero. Okay? So you have to be compliant with net zero, not the Paris Accord, but net zero. That's why I came with my comment in that. And the issue is the penalty is 5% of your total generated turnover. Okay, so if I sell, 10% of my LNG to Europe, okay, I sell petrochemicals, fertilizer, oil, LNG, gas, I sell pipeline gas, so all that, they're going to take 5% of my total generated revenue, which is the revenue of Qatar. The biggest supplier of cash to the state is the oil industry. So that's why our position. And one of the things you mentioned that there is no change. Actually, the Europeans have changed a lot. They have gone back on a lot of these. There is a discussion that's happening in Europe now. Of course, when I said that, the FT came and had an interview with me. It went, viral, like they say, or whatever, about Qatar threatening and so on. And then I talked to the European Union, I talked to different ministers from the European Union, and I told them that we're not bluffing. I mean, we're just actually saying what we will do, because we can't withstand the 5% tax the European would take. And they have reviewed the law. I believe in a month or two they are going to be voting on the new amendments. And it was leaked, so I'm going to tell you, it was leaked to all, also that I wrote a letter to all EU members explaining our position and saying that we want to deal with Europe. And if you look at what we've done in Europe, I mean, we have South Hook LNG terminal, which we own with ExxonMobil. We own 70% of that. We competed in an open bid in the EU for Isle of Grain when the UK was part of, when the EU was part of UK was part of the EU. So 7.5 million tons of LNG for 25 or 30 years. Montois in Paris, we bought capacity there for like 20 years. Zeebrugge in Belgium, 7.5 million tons. That's all because we are interested in supplying the LNG to Europe. So with all that investment and all what we've done, they have to be fair to us. And if you see the US administration recently, they have also gone, very much attacking the CSDD. There are also other laws that the European Union has, but some of them are manageable and some of them are not, and we're dealing with that and talking to them about. We're in a very good position with our CO2 sequestration, with what we're doing. I'm surprised nobody asked us about our solar and renewable energy, but we're doing a lot of effort there. Only a few years back, in 2021, we had zero solar. Today, as we speak, we have 15% of our power coming from solar. We already announced the fourth project of LNG, which is double what we already have, 2,000 megawatts of solar. We will reach by 2028, 29, 30% of our power coming from solar. So we're doing a lot in that front. I'm not, I'm a little bit more comfortable about the position on Europe, and I think it will come to a good resolution because they understood the magnitude of what they're asking for. They walked back on the supplier due diligence on labor, they walked back on some things, so because they understood this is not doable. I need a team of 1,000 people, okay, to go and do diligence on every supplier that supplies to every EPC contractor that I have. We're managing projects of $200 billion as we speak. Today, $200 billion worth of projects. So imagine $200 billion, I have to go and look at every nail so it's ridiculous. It's okay to judge what QatarEnergy does, and you can do due diligence on that, you can audit that, there's no issue with us, we're not hiding anything. But they have to be reasonable, and I think they're going to be.
As a university, we do have to keep to timetables. Okay. And with apologies, it is clear that your forthrightness and interesting answers.
I'm okay to give them more time for questions if you like.
Okay, then how about two more questions, one there and one there.
Up to you.
With apologies to those of you who have been waiting in line. Okay. And so if we can start over here.
Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. So my name is Robin, and 3 days before, we were the guys who won the generative AI solution for UN Reboot the Earth in CMACube. So my question for you is regarding AI. You mentioned something about patents, and what we did was generative AI. So do you see QatarEnergy in the future developing its own model of AI and putting in all the information and having its own AI in the future?
We're looking at that, but we're not ready to announce what we're going to do exactly yet.
Awesome.
Okay, thank you. More jobs for our students, please.
Assalamu alaikum, اسمي عاشر الخاطر. And my question today is, how can Qatar use AI to make renewable energy systems work better while also keeping its energy data and systems safe?
Okay, so how can you use AI and also ensure that it's safe using AI? Is that your question?
Yes.
Okay. So I think it's something, it's a very interesting question, because I think when you are depending on machines too much, where do you draw the line? So I think with data and with the security of data, I mean, reservoir data, there are contracts that you look at, there are a lot of confidential things that we look at, and you have competitors that are looking at that. So sabotage and things that could happen when you don't have. So you have to have good guardrails, if you will, and you have to have firewalls. Even within our own organization, we have firewalls between departments. There are certain departments that can't see information from other departments for legal reasons, and to make sure there is good, security of that information. So it's something it's a very interesting, very important topic that you're asking for, and it's very difficult to judge how much, and that's part of what people are worried about with AI, and how much do you give the machines? And I think that depending too much on AI. It's like when we were doing Fortran programs, and I remember writing 14,000 lines of Fortran programs to make a simulation model for reservoir at Penn State. At the end, it's you that is developing that program, and it's not. If you don't have the knowledge of how you look at potential between cell to cell, you can't actually formulate that program. So I don't think we should depend too much on AI, and we need to make the AI work for us, but not to run everything for us. I don't know if that makes sense, but okay?
That does. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency. This has been a great discussion, and I'm sorry to have to bring it to a close.
Thank you.
Let us thank him for just a fascinating talk.
Thank
today.
you.
Thank you so much.